Your Excellency, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, my dear sister, and our own generous host. Thank you very much, Madam President. Your Excellency, Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairman of the African Union. Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, the Deputy Secretary General of United Nations, my dear sister Amina Mohammed, the President of the World Bank Group, my brother Ajay, President of Rockefeller Foundation, Raj, heads of multilateral development finance institutions, honorable ministers, private sector leaders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Africa Energy Summit. I wish to thank Your Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan for graciously and generously hosting us for this summit. You are such a remarkable leader. And it's always a joy to be in Tanzania. I wish to express our deepest appreciation to the Chairman of the African Union, President Ghazouani, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, for co-hosting this summit. I am extremely grateful to you, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, for honoring our invitation, for being here in such large and unprecedented numbers. It shows the high priority and the political commitment you place on expanding the access of your populations to electricity. Access to electricity is critical for Africa's economic growth. The lack of adequate electricity reduces the GDP of Africa by 2 to 4%. Your Excellencies, since the African Development Bank Group launched the New Deal on Energy for Africa in 2016, at the start of my first term as President of the African Development Bank, working with all our partners, significant progress has been made in expanding access to electricity. The share of the population with access to electricity in Africa significantly increased from 39% in 2015 to 52% in 2024. The African Development Bank Group has supported over 25 million people to have access to electricity. However, despite the progress being made, Africa still has 571 million people without electricity, accounting for 83% of the global population without electricity. Over 1 billion people do not have access to clean cooking solutions, which negatively impacts on women's health, children's health, and lives. We must take decisive actions to further drive down these numbers, and that is why Ajay Banga, President of the World Bank Group, and I joined together to launch the Mission 300 with the goal of expanding access of 300 million people in Africa to electricity by 2030. Mission 300 has grown into a global movement, and we were joined by the African Union, Commission, several global partners, including the Rockefeller Foundation, the Sustainable Energy for All of the United Nations, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, and we are not alone. We have just been joined as well by the Islamic Development Bank, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the French Development Agency, Agence Française de Développement, and several bilateral development agencies. We will not succeed, Your Excellencies, if we do not work closely and more openly with more space for the private sector. And that is why we are delighted that several leading CEOs from around the world have joined us today. Critical reforms will be needed to expand the share of renewables, improve functioning and performance of utilities, transparency in licensing, power purchase agreements, and predictable tariffs regimes that reflect the cost of production. The private sector will also need to play a critical role to expand mini-grids and off-grid systems to reach millions of people without access to grid-based power in rural areas. Our collective effort is to support you, our heads of state and government, to develop and to implement clear actions embedded in country-led national energy compacts, your compacts, to deliver on your visions for electricity in your respective countries. The African Development Bank and the World Bank have developed a very clear path to achieving the 300 million access goal. Together, the African Development Bank and the World Bank will commit $40 billion towards the Mission 300. With $18.2 billion from the African Development Bank and $22 billion from the World Bank Group. And Ajay will talk about that when he comes on board. It is an unprecedented alliance. Thank you very much, Ajay. We couldn't have done this without you. Thank you so much. And thank you very much to Raj Shah, President of Rockefeller Foundation, for providing critical technical assistance, support of $20 million that made the preparation of the country energy compacts possible. Thank you very much to you and your colleagues. Your Excellencies, support for Mission 300 keeps pouring in. Yesterday, at the first day of the summit, several development partners made huge announcements in support of Mission 300. The President of the Islamic Development Bank Group announced $2.65 billion in support. The President of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank announced $1.5 billion in support. The President of the OPEC Fund announced $1 billion in support. And the French government will be making a major announcement today. We are confident that other development partners here and elsewhere will join us and announce their respective commitments either today and after. Your Excellencies, as I close, I would like to thank you and to say we need your personal leadership to get this done. Together, let us decisively use Mission 300 to deliver 300 million people in Africa with access to electricity in all your countries by 2030. The African Development Bank's $20 billion Desert to Power program will complement Mission 300 and develop 10,000 megawatts of solar power across 11 Sahelian countries and provide access to electricity for an additional 250 million people. Therefore, the Mission 300 and the Desert to Power working collectively will provide 550 million Africans with electricity. That, Your Excellencies, will deliver universal access to electricity for Africa. What a difference that will make for your respective countries. And what a difference that will make for Africa. You will be remembered, Your Excellencies, as the presidents who gave your countries 100% access to electricity. You will be remembered as the presidents who said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Thank you very much, and asante sana.
Can we extend another round of applause to Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank, for that wonderful remark. From ideas to action to accelerate energy access, Your Excellency, allow me now to invite to the podium Mr. Ajay Banga, President of the World Bank Group, for his remarks, to be followed by Dr. Rajiv Shah, President of the Rockefeller Foundation. As he gets to the stage, let's give him another round of applause.
Madam President, I want to start by thanking you, like all of us have done since yesterday, for the generosity but also the focus and energy of your government and your people to making this possible. Thank you once again. And to my partners, Akin and Raj, I could not believe that we would get to this point when we started this journey last year. It started out at the spring meetings of the World Bank IMF meeting, and it started out with us saying that the World Bank would reach 250 million people by 2030, and the African Development Bank would add 50 million. And then Raj Shah called me up a few days later and said, "I have a proposal for you. I'd like to help you." And that spirit of contribution that Akin and Raj have shown from day one is why we are all here together. So thank you to both of you. I have a very simple agenda for all of us here, heads of state, who are showing your participation and your support for us. We need every ounce of your support. But the reality is, your people need it even more than all of us do. Over the next decade, 360 million young people in Africa will be ready to enter the workforce. That same decade, the African system is expected to only offer jobs to 150 million of these, leaving 3 out of every 5 young people without the opportunity of a job which gives you not just earning, but dignity. And I think if Africa is to achieve its objectives of taking advantage of its demographic dividend over this coming period, then all of us need to change this idea, because forecasts are not destiny. Forecasts are not destiny. We can change this. We can help those 3 out of 5 people. And while journeys are fueled by hope, the reality is they are only realized by deeds. It is deeds that we are here together to discuss. Our mission to address the fundamental challenge of providing electricity to half of this continent's people, 300 million, who do not have access. This is just the critical first step. M300 is the cornerstone of a jobs agenda. It is not just about electricity. It is not just about clean cooking. It is not just about healthcare. It is about people and their optimism and their hope for dignity. This is the cornerstone of a jobs agenda. It is the foundation for future development, and we would like to be your partners as we go forward. To succeed, we all have to embrace a very simple truth. No one can do it alone. Governments cannot do it alone. Businesses cannot do it alone. Philanthropies cannot do it alone. Development banks cannot do it alone. But together, we can. And only through collaboration can we achieve this idea of making it possible. Governments are the architects of reform. They craft the policies, the regulations that drive progress. But they're also the engineers of investment. They leverage their resources to finance essential infrastructure. Over the past year, we've worked alongside leaders of your countries to develop country-specific plans. These are rooted in data, they're endorsed at the highest levels by you, and they are aligned with very clear goals of reform. These plans focus on affordable power generation, on expanding connections, and on regional integration and regional electrical markets. They aim to boost the efficiency of utilities, they aim to attract private investment, and the idea is deliver reliable, sustainable electricity. These are going to require political will, persistence, and a long-term vision. So amid fiscal challenges, governments will also need the support to meet these infrastructure goals. And that is where the IMF, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, all our partners that Akin referred to, that's the role we can play to help you free up resources. But for the private sector, a lot of our friends and colleagues who are in this room, this effort represents both a challenge and an opportunity. We need your innovation, we need your efficiency, we need your people, we need your creativity, we need your capacity to scale. To facilitate your investment, we've identified those regulatory policy barriers. We are working to eliminate them. We will put our money at that point where if these policy barriers are removed, our money is put to work. This is a pay-for-results effort that we are putting in. Our plans will create the environment where your investments can generate returns while driving meaningful impact. So that's going to take calculated risks, and every development bank here sees that we are ready to be your partner throughout this. For the World Bank Group, I can promise you our equity and guarantees, our resources to help de-risk investments and support your efforts. By aligning private capital with public priorities, we think we can achieve results that none of us could do alone. Philanthropies, people like Raj and his team, and development banks like the others here, provide the financial backbone. We bring the conception, the testing, the investment through concessional financing. The global community's generosity last year secured a record $100 billion replenishment for IDA, funding that is essential to this effort. Over the coming 5 to 6 years, and this is the only place where I'd like to correct my friend Akin, the World Bank is actually putting $30 to $40 billion into this effort. Which is roughly, which if you think about it, if you're putting $100 billion into IDA, a large chunk of IDA is going into this effort to help Africa enable its people, its young people, to achieve their dreams and their aspirations, which is exactly what the money should be for. So this is the right priority being put to the right work. While Mission 300 is a centerpiece, it is part of a broader energy strategy. We are also working on energy projects, including investments in natural gas that I believe will help to support a just energy transition. That's vital for powering industries like agriculture, healthcare, and manufacturing. These are the sectors, if those of you will remember who was in the Nairobi summit when I spoke, these are the sectors that will create jobs and growth that this generation demands. So that's our strategy for the World Bank Group's next phase, ensuring that job creation is not a byproduct of our work, but it is an explicit aim of our operation. We are dedicated and focused to get young people the chance and the opportunity they deserve in their lives. This will take collective effort. Thank you. Governments must drive reforms. The private sector, all my friends and partners here, you need to invest with confidence and trust. And we in the development banks, we must deliver the financing. We must uphold accountability. This will demand hard work and vision. But remember, all this is within reach if we do this together. I'm very grateful to all here. I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your journey. I think all my colleagues at the World Bank Group are enthused by the idea of being a part of Mission 300. Thank you once again, Madam President, and thank you for all of you. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ajay Banga, President of the World Bank Group, for those wonderful remarks. From ideas to action to accelerate energy access, Your Excellency, please allow me now to invite Dr. Rajiv Shah, President of the Rockefeller Foundation. His remarks will be followed by the President of the COP29. As he is on the stage, let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Austin, for getting us started. I also want to thank our host, Her Excellency President Samia. It's an honor to be with you and to be in your wonderful country. And I'd like to share my respect, humility, and honor towards all of the heads of state and excellencies from across the continent that are demonstrating by your presence and your leadership that today is a demonstration of powerful African leadership and a strong African vision of economic growth and success. I would like to offer a very special thank you to those we seek to help, Akin, Ajay, and your extraordinary teams. We are only here today because each of you made courageous decisions to make extraordinary financial commitments at a time of genuine fiscal need across the continent. And I would like to highlight that I represent today not just the Rockefeller Foundation, but also the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, a group of philanthropies, partners, and private companies that have come together to try to do what Ajay has asked us to, which is to work together in partnership so we can achieve much more impact as opposed to going at it alone. Africa has been reaching for electricity for 140 years. Streetlights first arrived in Dar es Salaam in 1908. In an effort to create jobs and advance development since then, you, the leaders of this great continent, have tamed some of the continent's mightiest rivers, developed plans and built grids, climbed utility poles and spliced wires. And yet, despite those efforts, too many African families and businesses lack access to productive power for growth and for jobs. 600 million Africans live without basic electricity access. Another 500 million simply don't have the productive, affordable, always-on electricity, which is an absolute requirement for job creation in a global digital economy. Africa needs to create millions of jobs, as Ajay just noted. And this effort is ultimately about creating those jobs and allowing for that dignity for those youth that are entering the labor force, as Ajay noted. Every year to do so, we will need to replace expensive diesel generators as the source of power for so many African small businesses with cheap, always-on electricity. And that is what Mission 300 is all about. It would be easy to be skeptical about whether or not this, the largest public-private partnership on the continent today, designed to lift up hundreds of millions of people, could actually achieve the ambitious targets that Ajay and Akin and all of you respected heads of state have set for us. I believe there are 3 reasons why this initiative will succeed when perhaps others over that 140-year history have failed. First, Mission 300 is led by you, African leaders. Your compacts, your commitments, your targets, and most importantly, your absolute determination to implement the policy reforms that you are signing on to publicly today offer hope and clarity for the private sector, for philanthropy, and for your development partners. Thank you, and we will follow your lead. Second, Mission 300 is catalyzing extraordinary concessional resources at a time of absolute fiscal need on this continent. That is a testament to the leadership of the 2 banks, and Ajay, to you in particular, for bringing us together and kicking this off. I think it will take your private sector background and your determination to hold us all to account to achieve our targets in order to be successful. But to put this level of resources into a single effort with a single quantitative, measurable set of outcomes gives us hope and inspires transformation. And third, this effort is in fact a public-private philanthropic partnership. It is different from other initiatives I've been a part of. Just in the last 6 months, watching how the teams at the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and each of your nations are collaborating openly, sharing data, using GIS planning to site new locations for mini-grids and other new technology solutions, and being open to new technology solutions that today are at a price point where this vision of success is affordable and possible, and in fact the least cost way to provide universal electrification, gives me hope that this will in fact be different and be successful. Mission 300 is an opportunity to work together and to work together differently. We pledge support as helpers and quiet helpers at every level of this project to ensure that decades from now, people look back on yesterday and today and say what happened in Dar es Salaam, much like turning the streetlights on in 1908, transformed a continent and transformed generations for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajiv Shah, President of the Rockefeller Foundation, for your wonderful remarks. Your Excellency, before we proceed, allow me to recognize the presence of His Highness Sheikh Shakbout Al Nahyan, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of the United Arab Emirates, and the representative of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed Al Nahyan, President of the United Arab Emirates. Can we give him a big round of applause? From ideas to action to accelerate the energy access, Your Excellency, please allow me now to invite His Excellency Mukhtar Babayev, COP29 President, for his remarks, to be followed by those of Dr. Kamugisha Kazaura, Director from the African Union Commission. Let's give him a round of applause as he's already at the podium.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear friends, good morning. It is an honor to join you in beautiful Tanzania to address this important issue. I would like to thank all African governments for the support that you gave to COP29 presidency in Baku to help bring parties together and confront climate crisis together. Ladies and gentlemen, when we looked to the presidency, it became evident that the global financial system was failing to meet Africans' needs. Investment in clean energy has not matched the demands of your rising population. You deserved more, and COP29 was a chance to change. But the multilateral system was under pressure. People doubted that countries could agree and the process could deliver. We made a new finance deal our top negotiating priority. We were confident that the goal had to be fair and ambitious. When a target of $250 billion was initially suggested, we were clear that we needed to go further. We refused to close the conference. And in the final moments of extra time, we landed a deal on the Baku finance goal. This is a goal to mobilize at least $300 billion per year to the developing world by 2035. This triples the previous goal. It also provided a framework to scale up climate finance to $1.3 trillion per year. It is the largest financial target to come from UN climate process. It will help advance the Mission 300 initiative to provide electricity access to 300 million people in Africa by 2030. It will mean more energy infrastructure for Africa. It will mean more power for homes, businesses, schools, and hospitals. It will mean more opportunity for people across this continent. Your Excellencies, our job is not finished. National energy compacts from this summit will help guide international financial flows to your priorities. They will help global donors address your needs, such as clean cooking, which we already made progress on over the last year. Furthermore, many parts of the financial system still need to be fixed. As the COP29 presidency, we will continue to champion the needs of Africa on the world stage. We will hold governments to account for the promises they made in Baku, Azerbaijan. We will work with multilateral development banks and the private sector to scale up climate finance. And we will remind people how COP can deliver and why we must invest today to save tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, the active engagement of African governments was critical to our collective success. Azerbaijan is proud of what we achieved together, and we look forward to building on this partnership together. I thank you. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Mukhtar Babayev, the COP29 President, for those wonderful remarks. Your Excellency, as we are now looking on to ideas to action to accelerate the energy access, allow me to request to the podium the representative of the African Union Commission to come and deliver the remarks, to be followed by those by Ms. Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations and Chair of the UN Sustainable Development Group. But for now, the representative of the African Union Commission. Your Excellency, allow me to invite Mrs. Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations and the Chair of the UN Sustainable Development Group, for her remarks, to be followed by those of His Excellency President Mohamed Ghazouani, President of the Mauritanian.
Your Excellency, President Samia Suluhu Hassan, Excellencies, Majesties, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a real pleasure to join you here all today, and I extend my heartfelt appreciation to Her Excellency, President Hassan, and to her government, the United Republic of Tanzania, for hosting Mission 300 Energy Summit. but I'd like also to underscore her incredible leadership and her vision that we are all here today and gathered as an African continent. I would also like to thank the African Union for keeping fire under our feet to do the right thing for the continent. Congratulations to my two brothers, the African Development Bank Group, Akin, and to the World Bank Group, Ajay. These are incredible partnerships that bring genuine experience, decades from the public sector to the private sector, and I think it's why we're looking to the success of this union. But also to the Rockefeller Foundation for a strong and meaningful partnership, one that brings key stakeholders together in this room. Your bold investments are a testament to Africa's potential for a sustainable and resilient future. Today, Africa has one of the lowest levels of energy access, as we have heard, but it is also one of the most vulnerable to intensifying climate shocks. Yet our continent is rich in renewable energy resources and critical minerals, which are all essential for the energy transition and benefit from limited sunk costs in fossil fuel-intensive energy infrastructures. Africa is also home to a vibrant, young, and enterprising population. This provides immense potential for Africa to show the rest of the world what a new economic development paradigm grounded in sustainability, resilience, justice, and inclusivity can look like. Enhanced energy access, affordability, and reliability is not only crucial for achieving our Sustainable Development Goal 7, but it also serves as a catalyst for broader development goals. Access to clean and sustainable energy underpins progress in health, in education, in gender equality, while driving economic growth and climate action, many of the 17 goals. By advancing long-term energy security and sovereignty, we can foster peace, we can create green jobs, and build resilient livelihoods, paving the way for improved stability and prosperity across our continent. With renewables now being the cheapest source of new electricity almost everywhere on Earth, Mission 300's bold commitment to connect 300 million people to electricity by 2030 represents a transformative opportunity for Africa. Combined with systemic initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, Africa is uniquely positioned to lead the global energy transition. By powering essential sectors such as healthcare, education, commerce, bolstering industries like solar manufacturing, grid infrastructure, and clean energy solutions, renewable energy can unlock unprecedented economic potential. With reliable energy access, the continent's 147 million small and medium enterprises, key drivers of economic growth, will have the tools to scale, to innovate, and create jobs, turning energy into a true catalyst for inclusive and sustainable progress. Tanzania stands as a shining example of how rural electrification and off-grid renewable energy solutions can transform lives, particularly in remote and underserved areas. The country has made remarkable strides, with electricity access increasing from just 14% in 2011 to 46% in 2022. And what does that mean? It has led to over 1 million new connections, driving a rural electrification rate of 72%. In November 2024, more than 60,000 social institutions were connected to the REA, benefiting 12,905 educational institutions, 6,768 health facilities, over 8,000 places of worship, and 29,000 commercial areas. This progress means that more boys and girls in remote areas can now study in well-lit classrooms. Health workers can deliver life-saving services to off-grid populations, and rural businesses can thrive with reliable power. Tanzania demonstrates how energy access is not just about electricity. It is about opportunity, equity, and the foundation of a brighter future and a life of dignity for everyone. We must ensure that Mission 300 seizes the opportunity that lies ahead. With 5 years to the endpoint of the SDGs, and having completed the first decade of implementing the African Union's 2063 agenda, it is clear that transformation efforts remain insufficient. I would like to deeply commend the African leadership that is here today as you seek solutions to address Africa's energy access, its climate vulnerability, and development challenges holistically. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have to accelerate our collective efforts to fast-track the solution for SDG 7, but also the Paris Agreement, and propel Africa to become a clean energy powerhouse. This requires urgent action in 3 key areas beyond this summit. First, creating the right enabling environment to attract scaled private and public investments through stronger, stable, and more coherent policy and regulatory frameworks. And we are very pleased to see, and thank you, Ajay, for the private sector that is here today, and that we hope will accompany us through this very difficult, but at the end, profitable journey. This year, every party to the UN Climate Convention has committed to submitting a new economy-wide national climate action plan that is aligned with the 1.5-degree world that we need well before COP30 in November. If done right, these climate plans should align with national energy strategies and development priorities, and they would double as investment plans to seize the potential of renewables, helping us to eradicate poverty and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in the Paris Agreement. Furthermore, the Secretary-General's panel on critical energy transition minerals offers important principles and actionable recommendations to ensure that we do not repeat historical patterns of exploitation on this continent. Second, mobilizing affordable, accessible, and adequate finance. The chronic underinvestment in renewable energy in Africa and long-standing structural barriers, such as the exorbitant capital costs, mean that a continent with the potential to be a renewable powerhouse accounts for less than 1% of global installed solar capacity. It is why we're calling for an SDG stimulus to scale up affordable long-term financing for developing countries, and for the Baku to Belém roadmap of $1.3 trillion to bridge the climate gap by leveraging all sources and by addressing unjust and structural barriers. Last year's Pact of the Future sent an unequivocal message: reform of the international financial architecture is urgent and essential. And this pact would not have got across the line if not for the leadership of the African leaders in the United Nations. It spoke to strengthening the voice and the representation of developing countries. It spoke to mobilizing far greater levels of financing for the SDGs and direct that financing to countries that are most in need. It spoke to enabling countries to borrow sustainably and with confidence to invest in their long-term development. But it also spoke to provide effective and equal support to countries during systemic shocks. Finally, multilateralism, our international cooperation, still remains our best hope for delivering solutions at the necessary scale and speed. And I know to many of us, as we look around to the geopolitical challenges that we have today, multilateralism doesn't seem like the best offer on the table. But it is. It is a place that we come to. It is a global town hall for our global village. It is where we see visibility and we can shine a light on the opportunities, but also that we can also give hope to the millions that look to us to serve them. The UN remains dedicated to supporting your efforts every step of the way. Through our UN expertise and presence in the country, we are committed to supporting Mission 300, the African Development Bank, the World Bank, and we're committed to helping identify and to attract investments that will strengthen the policy environment, the regulatory environment, that will secure resources that are needed to make Mission 300 a success. Finally, I would like also to commend our special representative. It's not often that we have women in leadership positions. Today we are hosted by a great leader that is a woman, but we also have we speak to the intergenerational challenges that we have, and we also have a special representative of the UN on Sustainable Energy for All, Damilola Ogumbi, who is playing a critical role within the Mission 300. It is a critical countdown to 2030. Let's ensure that Mission 300 delivers concrete outcomes towards the SDGs, the Paris Agreement, and Agenda 2063. Let's seize that moment to accelerate and to deliver transformative progress Together, I am sure that Africa can lead the way for the energy transition, creating lasting prosperity, resilience for generations to come, but actions and aspirations fulfilled today for our women and for our youth. Thank you.